Imagine waking up one day to the roaring sounds of war machines in your once peaceful homeland. This became a reality for Ukrainians on February 24, 2022, when Russian forces initiated a full-scale invasion. The echoes of gunfire and the rumble of tanks reverberated through the cities of Kyiv and Kharkiv as the Russian forces launched their initial attack. Yet the Ukrainian spirit proved to be resilient. The country's men, women, and even children banded together to form a resistance as fierce as the winter winds that swept through their streets. Their courage held the line, pushing back the invaders and stalling their progression. In the aftermath of the initial onslaught, disturbing evidence came to light. Reports and images of Russian atrocities began to surface, painting a chilling picture of the horrors that had been committed. Destroyed homes, shattered lives, and a nation grappling with the reality of war. This was just the beginning, a prelude to a conflict that would change the region's landscape and the lives of its people forever. The war was not static. It was a turbulent sea of shifting fortunes and heartbreaking losses. As the calendar turned to March, the conflict's landscape altered dramatically. Russian forces in a sweeping move captured the Kherson region, launching a ruthless offensive to seize all of Donbass. This resulted in a high number of civilian casualties, a grim testament to the brutality of war. April brought further changes. Ukrainian fighters, after weeks of relentless bombardment, surrendered in Mariupol. The city's fighting spirit was extinguished with the siege of the Azovstal steel plant, a pivotal moment that showcased the harsh realities of this conflict. As the war raged on, May saw a glimpse of hope. Russian forces withdrew from Snake Island, and Ukraine reclaimed a sliver of land off Odessa. This move undermined Russia's naval power, a strategic victory for Ukraine in this maritime chess game. June, however, saw the tide turn once again. Lysychansk fell to Russia after weeks of intense fighting. The city's loss was a blow to Ukraine, a painful reminder of the war's unpredictable nature. But Ukraine was not to be deterred. July marked a turning point. Ukraine launched a counter-offensive in the Kherson region, employing Western-supplied weapons systems. They also attacked a Russian airbase in Crimea, a daring move that signaled Ukraine's unwavering resolve. The war had turned into a chess game, with both sides maneuvering and countering, aiming to checkmate the other. Each move, each decision, carried the weight of a nation's future. The tide of war ebbed and flowed, but the spirit of resistance remained as strong as ever. In the face of adversity, Ukraine began to reclaim its lost ground. As the summer heat of August gave way, so did the tide of war. The Ukrainian forces, armed with Western-supplied weapons systems, launched a successful counter-offensive in the Kherson region. They struck at a Russian airbase in Crimea, marking a distinct shift in the dynamics of the conflict. September came with a bang, literally. An explosion rocked the Kerch Strait Bridge, a vital connection between mainland Russia and Crimea. The incident was a major setback for Russia, affecting their supply lines and mobility. Yet Russia was not to be deterred easily. In a bold move, they announced the annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions, pushing the boundaries of international law. As the leaves turned golden in October, Ukraine celebrated a significant victory. Russian forces withdrew from Kherson, marking a turning point in the war. Ukraine was no longer just on the defensive. It had started to take back its territories, one city at a time. November brought a chill in the air and a new approach to warfare. Ukraine carried out drone attacks on military bases inside Russia. The drone attacks were a demonstration of Ukraine's resilience and determination. It was a message to Russia and the world that Ukraine was not just defending anymore. It had started to strike back. As the new year dawned, the war entered a new phase, one marked by significant Russian losses. The final month of the previous year had seen Ukraine strike a significant blow. In Donetsk, a building housing Russian troops was targeted, resulting in substantial casualties. This marked a turning point in the conflict, signaling Ukraine's willingness to take the fight to the enemy. As the calendar flipped to January, the struggle grew even more intense, with Russia launching a renewed offensive. However, this effort was met with stiff resistance. The Ukrainian forces, hardened by months of conflict, were ready to meet their adversary head-on. The result was a series of heavy losses for the invading forces. Casualty estimates for Russia reached an alarming 200,000, with Ukraine also suffering significant losses of around 100,000. The intensity of the fighting and the scale of the losses underscored the severity of the conflict. This was no longer a war of quick gains or easy victories. It had become a grueling test of endurance, resilience, and determination. Each side pushed its limits, straining to hold ground or make advances, all against a backdrop of escalating violence and destruction. Despite the grim realities of the war, the Ukrainian people demonstrated their indomitable spirit. They continued to resist, to fight, and to hope. Their bravery and tenacity marked each day of the new year, fueling their struggle for freedom and sovereignty. As the war raged on, the world watched in anticipation, hoping for a resolution that would bring peace to the embattled region. Yet the path to that peace remained uncertain and fraught with challenges. The conflict had evolved into something much larger than a territorial dispute. It was a battle for identity, for freedom, and for the future of a nation. The war had become a test of endurance, with each side pushing its limits. Wars are not just about victories and losses on the battlefield. They also leave deep scars on the societies embroiled in them. The war in Ukraine, an escalating chapter of the Russo-Ukrainian conflict that began in 2014, is a testament to this brutal reality. A reality where hundreds of thousands of lives have been extinguished, where cities have been reduced to rubble, and where tens of billions of dollars worth of damage has been inflicted upon a nation already grappling with economic challenges. The war's toll on human life is staggering. From a full-scale invasion in February 2022 to a relentless offensive throughout the year, the casualty estimates have reached a terrifying 200,000 for Russia and 100,000 for Ukraine. Each figure represents not just a soldier, but a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a friend, a life full of potential snuffed out in the prime. But the war's cost is not just counted in the lives lost on the battlefield. The civilian population of Ukraine has borne the brunt of this conflict. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes, forced to seek refuge in safer regions or even in foreign lands. Families have been torn apart, communities have been shattered, and a generation of children will carry the trauma of this war long into the future. The physical destruction wrought by the war is visible in the bombed-out buildings, the ruined infrastructure, and the devastated cities. From Kyiv and Kharkiv in the north to the Donbas region in the east, the war has left few places untouched. The southeastern city of Mariupol, once a bustling port city, now stands as a symbol of the war's destructive power. But amidst the destruction, a different sort of casualty has also emerged: the erosion of trust and the fracturing of relationships. The war has driven a deep wedge between Ukraine and Russia, two nations that share a long and intertwined history. It has also strained Russia's relations with the rest of the world, leading to economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. While the battlefields might eventually clear, the echoes of war will resonate for years to come. The physical scars may heal, the buildings may be rebuilt, but the memories of the war and its devastating impact will remain, etched into the heart of Ukraine's national consciousness. It's a sobering reminder of the true cost of war, a cost that extends far beyond the battlefield. In the midst of this chaos, however, there is a glimmer of hope. Ukraine, against all odds, has managed to turn the tide of this devastating war. Their strategy? A series of successful counteroffensives, reclaiming territory that was once lost. They have pushed back Russian forces across the entire front line, bringing significant victories in regions like Kherson and Kharkiv. But it's not just the battleground where changes are afoot. Within Russia, pressure is mounting. High-ranking officials face charges for intelligence failings, and there's a palpable discontent brewing among the masses. Municipal deputies from Moscow and St. Petersburg have even publicly called for the resignation of President Putin. This internal turmoil within Russia, coupled with Ukraine's strategic victories, is slowly shifting the balance of this war. Though the conflict is far from over, these developments bring a ray of hope in these bleak times. Ukraine's resilience in the face of adversity is truly remarkable. Their spirit remains unbroken, and their will to fight undeterred. They stand as a beacon of hope, not just for their own people, but for the entire world watching this conflict unfold. In the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, Ukraine continues to fight, embodying the spirit of resilience and hope.